Good morning. Welcome to our live virtual program. I'm Carrie Donaire, Marketing Coordinator at Citizens First Bank, and we're so excited to present today our live program, Protect Yourself from Scams and Fraud, with our special guest, Randy Meier. I have some notes for our attendees before we get started. And then I'll introduce our speaker. Please do keep your microphone on mute. That will help us eliminate some background noise as much as possible. You should see on the right-hand side of your screen a Q&A panel. And that Q&A, you can just send in questions during the program, and we will do our best to answer those questions at the end. We'll also be following up with some information on our website, so if for any reason we don't get to your question, we will try to address that with some FAQ and further information on our website at gocfb.bank. You can look for our page called Security Tips. Also, I wanted to mention you may want to have a pen and paper handy during the program today, as we will share contact information that is important for protecting yourself from scams and fraud, and you just may want to take some notes. Also, at the end of the presentation, we'll provide Randy's contact information and our contact information here at the bank. So if you have any specific questions or want to follow up, that you have that information. A recording of this program will be available at gocfb.bank, and we will provide that link as well. Without further ado, let me introduce our speaker. Randy Meier is Director of Seniors versus Crime, a unit of the Clinton County Sheriff's Office, with the mission of reducing the impact of frauds and scams on our entire community. They do public outreach, collaboration, they work with other law enforcement and regulators, and provide direct assistance to victims. Randy Meier started working as director in 2012 after his retirement from the Clinton Police Department, where he served for 33 years. Randy truly has the interests of our community in mind. He is a friend and a great provider of this type of information. We're so thrilled to have him here today. So take it away, Randy. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. I want to thank Citizens First Bank for allowing me to speak in this virtual program. As Carrie mentioned, public outreach is one of my goals. That has been severely limited due to COVID. So this is an opportunity for me to connect with the public, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get my message out. When we talk about scams and frauds, it's good to know that you cannot be a victim unless someone manages to contact you. So I want to start off by talking about the ways that people become victims. And I should inform you that it's hard to become a victim if you don't answer the phone or a call that you don't recognize. Nationwide, 75% of the people who report that they were victimized say that the method of contact of the scammer was through the phone. 14% say they were contacted by someone online. That's a big disparity there. Everybody's worried about emails and websites and so forth, but the fact of the matter is 75% of the time, if you're going to become a victim, you're going to be contacted through the phone. And those are nationwide statistics. My own experience bears that out. I feel the same way. The complaints that come to me, most of them originate through the phone. Even those that sometimes start online, oftentimes transition to phones. An example might be you get a request from Facebook to contact someone about some issue. Invariably, the scammer will ask you to shift to the phone. So just be aware of that the phone is the most prominent source of contact. So the best thing you can do to prevent yourself from becoming a victim is don't answer the phone if you do not recognize the caller. I tell this to people and I practice it myself. There are many, many calls that come in that we do not need to answer. The second thing I want to highlight is you won't become a victim if you don't pay the scammer. Now, it's important to know what the most important methods are that scammers are using today to try and chisel you. One of the most prominent ones right now is gift cards. And on your screen, you can there's displayed several examples of the reverse side of gift cards. Gift cards are ubiquitous and they're very handy, but when you find yourself talking to a stranger on the phone and they tell you, go to Dollar General, go to Walgreens, go to Hy-Vee and pick up this particular gift card. It could be an eBay card, an Amazon card. Those seem to be the trending ones right now, but that could change in a month. Then, you know, you buy a gift card, you pay $4.95 or something like that for the card, and then you load the money onto the card. You pay the retailer for the card. On the back of each card, there is a registration code, a redemption code, a claim code. Each retailer calls them something else, access codes. Those are usually, when you buy them, those are obscured by some kind of a black tape or something. You can scratch those off very easily. When you scratch those off and expose the code, the scammer will ask you to read the code to them. As soon as you read that code to them, I can guarantee you, as soon as you read that code, they are typing it into some kind of a device and they're accessing that card and they're going to electronically draw down the funds, whatever funds are on that card. This happens extremely fast. In some cases that I've worked, we have found that within the hour of the purchase of that card, all the funds are depleted from that card. And as a matter of fact, they may have gone through 2 or 3 other sets of hands in the space of an hour. I know this from my own investigation. So you cannot think that if you realize you've been scammed, you can't wait till the next day. You have to take immediate action to try and stop the loss or mitigate the loss. There are contact information for gift card purveyors that you can contact, and some of them are better than others at helping you out. Apple is a good one. Google, we have some problems with Google, but in any case, be aware that gift cards are a prime source of fraud in payment. We shouldn't discount cash itself. There are some scams. This has kind of made a resurgence. There are some scams that have come to light in the recent past where the victim has been asked to provide cash and mail cash, which sounds very old school, but it works. People are asked to collect the cash from bank accounts that have been had phony money put into them or some other type of scam. And they're asked to package the cash, wrap it in paper, put it in an envelope, and send it off to an address. This is very effective, apparently, because it still makes people comply with this. Now, and we can't, of course, electronic withdrawals are something that are also commonplace. This is why you don't want to give out your bank information to someone who calls you. They can obviously set up some kind of a money transfer system if that's the case. But gift cards right now are the most common method of people to lose money. So if you find yourself talking to someone on the phone and the subject of gift cards comes up, it's going to be a scam every time. Do not allow yourself to fall for that. Be aware of it. If you find yourself in line at Walgreens buying gift cards and the caller is keeping you on the phone, you're being teed up for a scam. Listen to the people. Many retailers have told me they train their staff to ask people questions and try and kind of find out what's going on. It's rather unusual for someone to come in and buy $500 worth of iTunes gift cards. If you do that, you can expect to be questioned by a lot of retailers. If you are questioned, take the hint. They know scams and they're trying to save you some money. They do not want you to fall victim to a scam. Please take the hint when you're questioned. And the same thing would apply if you go to a bank and seek to withdraw a bunch of cash. If the teller questions you and asks you what's up, tell the truth. Many times scammers like to give you a script or tell you what to say if you're questioned. That is also a red flag. If someone has to tell you to lie, well, then that's probably not a good thing. Now, there are some scams that I want to touch on. There's the always popular grandparent scam. This has been around forever, and it's still very effective. And it is one of those that leads to a very high dollar loss. We are investigating a series of these that happened in August here in this area, and the average loss was $15,000 for this scam. This one was a little different. Most commonly, the call comes in to an older person that says your grandson is in jail. Sometimes someone will come on the line and they're crying, they're very emotional, they will impersonate a grandchild, but not for very long. They don't talk for very long. They usually hand the call off to someone else who poses as a police officer, a defense attorney, or a judge, or a bondsman, or something like that. That person will facilitate the money part of the transaction, and they ask for money, they ask for bond. In the case that I'm talking about from this August, the person said, the caller said he needed $15,000 in bail bond, and if the victim was receptive, they agreed to send somebody out and pick up the cash. And they actually did. They sent people to rural farmhouses to pick up cash, $15,000. Not many people had that kind of money sitting around. So before that happened, someone had to go to a bank and withdraw that kind of cash. And they were coached to tell a story to the bank teller if they were questioned. So the grandparent scam still effective. I don't think it's ever going to go away. We just have to raise awareness among people. It grieves me to know that I've been talking about this since 2012, and we still have people who have not heard about it and fall for the scam. Another very common scam is what I call government imposter scams. This is when you're contacted by someone, it's almost always by phone, and they tell you that they work for a government agency. The most common one right now is the Social Security Administration scam. Many, many, many people are reporting calls from someone telling them that their Social Security number has been compromised, or it's been detected as used in fraud in Texas involving a rented car, something like this. The goal of these callers is, number one, to get you to call them back. Many of these calls come in as robocalls or voicemails, and they give you a number to call. If you call them back, you'll talk to a live person, and that person will spin this story about the rented car in Texas and your Social Security number. Two things they want to accomplish: they want to get your Social Security number, and secondly, if they can convince you to pay some kind of money, usually through gift cards, then their goal is achieved. They may say that you need to put some money on a gift card to establish your good intention, or you need to put money on a gift card to accelerate the investigation. None of it makes any sense. But if you're worried about your Social Security benefits, if you're worried about some kind of fraud on your Social Security account, you may fall prey to this. I would like to say this has never happened, but I know of at least 3 people in the last 3 months who have fallen for this scam in this area. That's too many. Another very popular scam at the present time is scams that are promoted through social media. These are almost always originate on Facebook to begin with. Many of these take the form of messages from your friends. The message will say that your friend has won some kind of a prize, and they somehow know that you are also on the winners list, and they direct you to contact somebody to furnish you with the details on your prize. These always originate as a hack to somebody's Facebook account, which is another reminder to us to secure our accounts with strong passwords, change those passwords frequently, and if you haven't done it already, to introduce 2-factor authentication through Facebook. Those are things you can research on Facebook. These so-called friend messages that direct you to claim a prize or claim a grant are one form of messages that are scam related or scammy on Facebook. Another one that's become popular in the recent past is it's a variation of what I call the friend in need scam. People are being contacted through Facebook, and the message comes from someone, probably not a close friend, but the message will say, I am incommunicado, I am out of the country, or I can't access my phone or whatever, and I need to come up with a birthday gift for my niece or nephew. I want to send them $300 in gift cards. Can you help me out? I'll pay you back as soon as possible. This is surprisingly effective. I know people who have lost $300 on this scam. At 300 seems to be the constant. I don't know why. I guess it's not too high, it's not too low, but it seems to work. So here again, gift cards, that's a commonality. Do not go out and buy gift cards when you're asked to by a stranger. If you find yourself scratching off a gift card in the line at Walgreens, you're teed up for a scam. But this birthday card thing is very commonplace and it's effective. Be aware of it. So I want to talk about COVID scams because everything else in the world is revolving around COVID. Why should scams be any different? There are some particular scams that have come to light with COVID, and it's not something you might think about. You might think a COVID scam might be something like somebody offering to sell you face masks and then taking your money and then never delivering. But there are some more pernicious, that happens, but there are some more pernicious forms of what we call COVID scams. And these are often related to identity theft. And to fully explain this, I have to recite a short history lesson and give you a little information on the credit reporting system. So there are three major credit reporting agencies in the United States: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Their business is to establish the creditworthiness of each of us. They maintain files on each of us. We don't have to give permission to them to do this. They just collect that information and have been doing it for many years and have been assembling our financial backgrounds, and they sell this information and they keep it. They keep it not very well because in 2017, there was a tremendous hack at Equifax and 145 million consumer accounts belonging to people in this country were stolen. That included social security numbers, dates of birth, full names, addresses, the whole 9 yards. At the time, there was a lot of speculation on what would happen to these 145 million sets of identities. And I theorized at the time that these people are going to hold on to this until they can introduce them into the system slowly or at a given point. That has come to pass with COVID. One of the effects of COVID was mass unemployment in March, April, May, in that time frame. And many systems, state systems, were overwhelmed with unemployment applications. It was at that time that scammers decided they were going to introduce their stolen identities and file fake unemployment claims. They filed in the names of many people, including people in this area who were getting letters saying your name has been introduced into our unemployment system. So that was identity theft. People's names were used all over the country, and many unemployment claims were filed. Now, if the scam, and many of these were not properly vetted because of the vast volume, so scammers were reaping a bonanza in money. Well, they had to come up with some way to dispose of this money. So if an unemployment claim went in, it had to go out somewhere. What scammers did was they co-opted people or persuaded people to establish bank accounts and accept money and then transmit that money to other places. Many banks were caught unawares at first, but I think they have realized now that many of these accounts were established for the sole purpose of receiving what is basically stolen money and then moving it off to other banks, other accounts. So what would often happen is someone was contacted, and through various reasons, they agreed to establish an account at a bank, or they agreed to allow their existing account to be used. So many thousands of dollars would be deposited into this account, and it would come from more than one state, maybe 3 or 4 states. Many states, practically all the states in the union, are subject to this form of scam. So banks were getting, $8,000, $10,000, up to $40,000 deposited into these accounts from states all across the country. And almost as soon as the deposits came in, the account holders came to the banks and withdrew the money in cash, took it out, and sometimes mailed the cash away to other addresses, or bought gift cards and gave those gift card information to their handler. That's what this COVID scam was all about, and it was extremely lucrative. And I use the word was, but still is, because it's still ongoing. The state of Washington reported that they lost almost $650 million in 2 months to these scams, these unemployment fraud scams. Another COVID-related scam that has come to light is the Small Business Administration disaster loan applications. This is another example of identity theft being used in these COVID scams. As part of the economic relief package that was passed by Congress in March of 2020, the Small Business Administration was given a lot of money to distribute to small businesses for economic disaster loans. Scammers figured out that all they needed to do was go online and submit an online application using a stolen identity and furnish a bank account, and the Small Business Administration would electronically transfer this money out. I have had at least 4 of these in the last 2 months reported to me, and the amounts are generally between $44,000 and $45,000. I don't know why that amount is so unique, but that's what it is. Maybe it's not high enough to trigger some of the more closer vetting that would be going on, but it's still high enough to entice people to commit this kind of fraud. So the only way you're going to become aware of it, if you are a victim, is if you get a letter from the Small Business Administration telling you that you owe $45,000 and here's your repayment schedule. As I said, this is a disaster loan. It's not a grant. The Small Business Administration was going to expect these things to be repaid. So it came as quite a shock to people to get something in the mail telling them they owed $45,000 and payments were going to start in a year. So if that happens to you, make sure you contact the Small Business Administration. You can contact me and we'll work through this to try and get this off your credit report, because it will show up on your credit report. Now, one of the ways that I mentioned this briefly before, if a scammer has successfully penetrated a state unemployment system and needs to get someplace to deposit benefits, they need to get a bank account. And I mentioned that they had co-opted or persuaded people to do that. Well, how do you persuade someone to open a bank account for you? One of the most effective ways is to do it in the form of a romance scam. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of dating websites in the United States and across the world. Many of these sites ask you to load up your profile, and you're basically putting yourself out there. Scammers prey on these sites. They contact people. They promise them love. They promise them visits, marriage, whatever. And along the way, they say, well, in order to make this thing work, would you establish a bank account for me? Or can I put some money in your bank account? I'm getting an inheritance. I'm getting an insurance settlement. I'm getting something. I need some place to put money. There are, unfortunately, a lot of people who have agreed to do this, and they have become money launderers. That is always a crime, and it can be prosecuted. Some people are more unwitting than others, but in any case, whatever your mental state, is still a crime, and you certainly don't want to become involved in that. Whether you get prosecuted or not, that's something down the road, but you do not want to become involved in a situation where you're agreeing to accept money, you're agreeing to transmit money, or handle money for someone you really don't know. The amounts of money involved are quite large. I know of someone who gained $40,000 this way and spent almost all of it, transmitted it out to other parties, but there are numbers that are even higher. And that's not the only way that scammers obtain bank account information. I am investigating a case now where a woman who made an application through a job through LinkedIn found herself with money deposited into her account. Somehow she gave away her bank account information without her knowledge, or so she says, and a scammer dumped a bunch of money in there and began threatening her, telling her what to do with the money. Thankfully, she contacted authorities and didn't follow through with the threats or demands from the scammer. So we've talked about quite a few things that are going on right now, and bad things that can happen, but I want to offer a few tips on ways that you can prevent some of this stuff from happening to you, or at least mitigate it to some extent. One of the most important things you can do to safeguard yourself is establish a credit freeze on your accounts. And there's a graphic up here that tells in very simple form what it is you can do. I recommend a credit freeze. The graphic talks about a fraud alert and a credit freeze. I think fraud alerts, they were the gold standard at one time, but we've moved on from that, and a credit freeze is the way to go now. A credit freeze restricts the access to your credit report and helps prevent identity theft. If a bank or a business cannot access your credit report, they're not going to extend you credit, and they're not going to. That means that your identity is worthless to someone who has stolen it. They can't do anything with it. To gain a credit freeze, you contact each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies and ask for it. You have to contact each one of them individually. I also recommend that you do credit history checks on a very regular basis. Those people who had Small Business Administration loans, disaster loans, each of them, we've done credit checks with their cooperation and found that the Small Business Administration did do a credit check on them before sending out the loan. So if they had checked on that, they might have noticed that. Now, whether that would have triggered anything, I don't know. It should have, but it wouldn't have prevented anything, but it may have given them a head start on knowing that something had happened with their credit. If you look at your credit history and you find that you've got credit cards that you didn't authorize or enable, that means somebody has got your identity and you need to look into it. The third thing I want to talk about is paying attention to your mail. Many things that are government related, the only communication you'll get is through mail. If you find out that someone has diverted your direct deposit Social Security benefits, that's going to come to you through mail. Social Security won't do that unless they send out a mail saying, hey, did you really want us to divert your Social Security benefits to another bank? The same way with a post office address change. If someone without your authorization changes your address, the post office is going to send you a letter telling you, did you really do this? Asking you, did you do this or not? And if you did, that's fine. But if you didn't, you better get a hold of the post office. One of the last things I want to talk about is I want to reinforce the concept that you do not answer the phone unless you know who the caller is. If it's an important phone call, they will leave a voicemail for you and you can respond to it that way. Always screen your calls. There is a great deal of phone phishing out there, and I didn't really touch on that, but that's the ability of scammers to fake numbers. They can make a phone number appear like whatever they want it to be. I've had people who have recently been involved in scams who tell me that the phone calls that came in looked like they came from the Clinton Police Department or the DeWitt Police Department. And so they were much more receptive to talking to that person. You cannot trust the caller ID anymore. You cannot trust what appears on your smartphone as the source of the call. It could very well be a fake number. Many of the people who are telling me they get Social Security scam calls are telling me the numbers come from numbers who are almost identical to their own number. That's an example of spoofing, phone spoofing. So just let that thing go to voicemail. And if it's important, you can call the person back if you don't recognize the number. That's one of the best things you can do to prevent scams. You're never going to fall for a scam that came through a number you didn't answer. And lastly, never give out your personal information. If you do find yourself talking to somebody on the phone and they start asking for a question for information, don't answer that information. An example might be someone who calls you and claims they're from Medicare and they want to verify your number or they want to update your policy or something like that. Well, they're looking for is your Medicare number. Do not give out that information. Many people are giving away their information on online surveys. Facebook is very good for this. You'll get some kind of a post that asks you to take this survey or that survey. Recently, someone told me they thought they were taking a survey for Home Depot, and they answered some questions, and they tried to claim a prize as a result of taking that survey. Well, to claim the prize, they had to give away their credit card number or their bank account number, and they did, and they fell for that. So there's an example of a compromise that came about because you're taking an online survey. Many of these online surveys they're actually tools for collecting personal information. They have no legitimate purpose whatsoever. So I think that's about as much time as we're going to devote to this today. And I understand we have a Q&A format, so I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any questions that have come in.
There are two questions in the live Q&A, Randy. The first came in earlier in the program, so you addressed it a little bit here at the end. What is the best way to handle robocalls?
Well, if you get a robocall, I would not respond to it. Generally, robocalls are, number one, illegal. Unless you have an existing relationship with the entity that's calling you, they are illegal. So if it's illegal, don't answer it. I never answer robocall. Well, you don't know, for one thing, if it's a robocall or not until you answer it. That's why I recommend you just screen it and let it go to voicemail. If you do get a message that is a robocall, you can report it to the do not call list. Many people know that there is a do not call list. They put their number on it, but they don't understand that there is another facet of the do not call list that you can make complaints. And that's a very good feature, because at the end of every day, the people who run the do not call list take a list of all the numbers that are reported to them as being violating the do not call registry, and they send those out to the phone companies so the phone companies can prevent those calls from going through again. I don't know what the threshold is, but there is a mechanism in place to enforce the do not call registry, but it relies on people reporting when they get a call that is illegal.
There is one additional question in the Q&A, and then following Randy's answer to this, we will be providing some contact information for our attendees today. So Randy, this question is, what are you seeing banks do for accounts that had fraudulent unemployment deposits? What in particular are you seeing banks do?
Well, many banks are, I think they're getting a lot better at it. As soon as the deposits come in, many banks are kicking them right back, especially if if I have an account here at Citizens First Bank, my name is on the account. Now, if I get an electronic deposit in that's supposed to come in for Carrie Donier, then Citizens First Bank is going to kick that back. I would assume that's the practice in many banks. Banks also are required to make reports to regulators about suspicious activity on accounts, and I know they do that too. And if they detect an account that has thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars coming in from 6 different states, they're likely going to make a report on that to the authorities. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Carrie, about the position of Citizens First on this.
Thank you. I would leave that as a case-by-case basis, and definitely any suspicion at any time you're wondering about activity on your account, to contact your universal banker, to call us here at the bank. We're available anytime for that. We have, our fraud specialists monitoring at all times account activity. But if you ever have the inkling that something is wrong, definitely get a hold of us right away. We are going to just provide some contact information now to wrap up. And again, Randy, we thank you so much for being with us here today. Randy's information is on the screen, so he can be contacted with Seniors versus Crime. His phone number is there, and email address. So we'll leave that up for a moment so you can capture it. And then finally, I'll provide the Citizens First Bank contact information. We do have security tips on our website at gocfb.bank/security tips. We do have some consumer education and resources that we provide. And again, any specific questions we would love to handle, you can just contact a universal banker here at Citizens First. Our general phone number is 563-243-6000. Thanks so much for being with us, and thanks again, Randy, for your help. Have a great day.
You're welcome.